How you doing? My name is David Hoyt. I do science outreach to the public over at the eighth largest refractor telescope in North America. And you're watching Celestial Safaris, where daily I take you on tours of the more exotic locations in our universe. And today we are doing a lunar safari. I am going to take you on what I believe is the top five most mysterious things on the moon, locations and phenomena that are going on that scientists really can't explain what's going on with yet. Now, if you do want to take like some daily excursions and go and investigate some of these locations that I'm going to be talking about in this video a little bit further, I have made a companion series. I've left links down in the description where I dive into each one of these one by one and kind of give you a little bit of the backstory, a lot more detail, and what the prevailing kind of theories are that scientists are kind of tossing out there to explain what's going on. As you can see, due to the economy, I don't got the fanciest of filming locations, but we'll work with it and get through it. So let's start our top five of the most mysterious places on the moon that scientists can't explain fully yet. Volcanoes on the moon that are impossible to have even formed in the first place. Now, I know what you're saying. What's the big deal, Dave? We know the moon has got volcanoes. It always has. Well, yeah, it does. It's got basalt volcanoes. And these particular volcanoes I'm going to be telling you about are silicic volcanoes, which means they produce silica, which is like granite, quartz, things like that. And that's the problem, you see. To create silicic volcanoes, as they're called, you need two things, right? You need plate tectonics, and you need water, like a lot of water, oceans of water. And the moon's never had either. So these volcanoes that stand 5,000 feet high up in the northwest corner of the moon, if you ever look at the full moon, and just a little bit even further northwest of that are a bunch of smaller ones, are called the Grathesian domes and the Myron domes. Myron T to be specific, and they shouldn't exist at all. Scientists have no idea how these types of volcanoes have even formed. We know they're very, very old, so it happened way back in the day. And it kind of goes completely against our fully understanding of volcanism and how volcanoes create themselves. Like I said, these volcanoes needed two things that the moon has never had: lots of water and plate tectonics. So it's a mystery. NASA's actually heading to the moon just specifically to get to the bottom of this mystery. They're landing a rover at the base of these volcanic domes at Grathesen in 2026. The rover is going to climb all over it and pick up rocks and do spectroscopy and look for clues. And if they can figure out what's going on there, it'll totally rewrite the books on how we understand volcanoes, both on the moon and on Earth. So there you go. That's number five on mysterious locations on the moon that scientists can't really explain. Volcanoes that should not exist and are impossible to have formed there. Going on to number four, gravitational anomalies on the moon. On the far side of the moon, down by the South Pole, is the largest crater. It's the largest and oldest crater in the solar system. It is about the size of half the United States. It would stretch from Texas to Washington, D.C. And underneath this crater, they've discovered a gravitational anomaly. According to sensors, there is a chunk of metal 5 times bigger than the island of Hawaii, buried 100 miles below the surface there. And they have no idea what it really is. They've got a couple theories, but nobody's really sure. It could be a couple of different things. So it's a kind of a big mystery how you have that much metal all located in one spot, buried 100 miles underneath the lunar surface. And it's creating all sorts of weird gravitational anomalies that are fairly easy to detect. They also think it might be tied in with another kind of a mystery to the moon, which is why the near side of the moon, the side we see that we're familiar with, and the far side of the moon, sometimes called the dark side of the moon, look dramatically different. In fact, they don't look anything alike. The side of the moon we look at, as you're familiar with, has got all those big gray patches of basalt seas where magma has cooled, and the far side of the moon has none of that. It's just got craters, like a lot of craters. And they don't really fully have an explanation as to why that happened, but they think it's tied in with this whatever cataclysmic impact must have happened to create the largest crater in our solar system. And it probably got something to do with this chunk of metal 5 times bigger than the island Hawaii buried underneath it. So that is number four, gravitational anomalies. Science is yet to figure out where they're coming from. Now on our little safari here, as we travel from the far side of the moon back to the day side that we see, you might look down and see these enigmatic kind of silvery white kind of curlicue swirling patterns on the moon. And each one of those has magnetic anomalies, which is the interesting thing. it's a little bit of a conundrum because the moon has no magnetic field. So where are these weird swirling marks on the surface of the moon getting their magnetic fields from and creating these magnetic anomalies? It gets a little bit wackier than that. These lunar swirls, as they're called, also apparently do not weather. They appear the same age as when uh, they formed billions of years ago, most likely. We know they're very old. Everything else surrounding them has weathered as expected, except for these, and they think it's tied into these magnetic anomalies. And in one of the companion videos to this, I go into detail describing what they think may be going on, but the jury's still out. They don't know how these swirls got there, and they're not entirely sure how these magnetic fields are forming, but they create these crazy looking patterns, as you can kind of see on this video here. That's number 3. Continuing down our list here, we've got number 2 on the most bizarre things on the moon. This one's pretty weird. Back during the original Apollo mission, the Lunar Command Module is orbiting around the moon, and it's late morning, and the sun is just cresting over the horizon, and they see this very strange patch of lunar surface. It's got this faint powder blue kind of hue to it, and it looks unlike anything they've ever seen on the moon. It really stood out to these astronauts, and they named it Ina, but it goes by the nickname the Blue Lake of the Moon. And the issue with this that's so confusing is it appears to be very, very young, but it would be impossible to have formed so young. It should be very, very old, and it hasn't weathered, and nobody can figure out why. Scientists are divided down the middle. Some say, oh no, this is extremely young, and the other side says, no, no, it's very old. And the problem is both sides have flaws in their argument. It's showing evidence of, although it should be young and it's unweathered, it's missing critical things that it would need to have if it were young, and vice versa on the other side of the argument for it being very, very old. Either way, you've got this blue exposed bedrock at the caldera of what's called a low shield volcano, and it's got that kind of blue hue due all this titanium in it, and it has what looks like drops of liquid mercury bubbling out of it, of the basalt. And it's very perplexing and very bizarre, and we still have no real answers as to what's exactly happening there. So that's Ina, the Blue Lake on the moon. Going down the list, we've got number 1 of the most unexplained things, which is mysterious lights on the moon. So for about 1,000 years now, for centuries, astronomers, from professional to just amateur astronomers in their backyard, have noted seeing, even on a weekly basis, strange flashes of light on the moon, lights in craters that turn on and off like someone's turning on a light switch, mysterious mists and clouds that sometimes have very odd colors that are pink, and to this day we don't really know what they are. But it did worry NASA enough that doing the groundwork for the Apollo missions, where they're going to send manned men to the moon, they had a project called Project Moonblink, and they gave it a innocuous name so that if Congress got word of it, they wouldn't freak out that NASA was investigating mysterious lights on the moon that no one could explain. But the whole point of Project Moonblink was to chart where these were happening, so we could make sure that when we send the manned missions to the moon, they didn't land anywhere near them, because, mysterious lights, probably not a good idea. There are a couple theories as to what's going on, and we're going to cover that in the final companion video that you can find in the links. But even during the Apollo missions, astronauts would see these things from space. In fact, there was a famous incident when the Lunar Command Module was orbiting around the moon, and everyone was watching the moon at the time because men are up there, and a bunch of German astronomers noted, hey, one of these strange flashes of light, this mysterious phenomena that's going on the moon is happening right now, and it's kind of really close to where this lunar orbiter is. So they got on the phone, they called NASA. NASA immediately got on the radio and called up to the astronauts in the Apollo mission and said, hey, can you look out the window and over at Aristarchus crater, can you tell us if you see these flashes of light? And they looked out the window, and yeah, sure enough, there were mysterious flashes of light going on in that crater. And to this day, we still do not know what it is. It's actually got some pretty interesting theories. So I would check out the video where I'm going to go into detail about it. But there's a lot of cool stuff going on the moon kind of tied around this. So that is number one, transient lunar phenomena. Strange lights on the moon that we've seen forever, and we have no idea what they are. So if you enjoyed any of these videos, I invite you to check out the companion videos where I go into detail if you're a little curious and kind of want to get more explanations as to what's happening and kind of do a deeper dive. If you like this kind of stuff, I'll be uploading a lot more content of this. Interviews with chairs of astrophysics departments at major universities, long form stories. Like I said, there's drama going up in the nighttime sky at any given moment. Just people aren't aware of it. And every story's got or every discovery's got a story. So I'm going to be diving into that a lot. So stay tuned, subscribe, do the thing if you can. It would help me out a lot. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks. Bye, guys.
This video dedicated to Zachary, a little boy who taught a grown man the most important lessons of his life. You helped me reconnect to the inner childlike wonder that I had for the stars that was lost a long time ago inside of myself. I would not be who I am today or making this video if it weren't for my experiences raising you as a little boy for those very few precious years of my life. Thank you, and I miss you.